Windows 11 is due to be released on October 5th, so in this video we're going to take an in-depth look at some of the new features and changes to the interface. Now, one of the most obvious things that you'll notice is that the Start button and pinned applications have been moved to the center of the taskbar down below. But for those of you who may not like that change, just know that that can be set back to the left as it was in 10 and all other previous versions. If we right-click on the taskbar, we have Taskbar Settings. Clicking there, we can scroll down to this window where we have Taskbar Behaviors, and then at the top we have Taskbar Alignment, and then we can choose Left, and you'll notice that our Start button and pinned applications are now to the left. But for this video, I'm going to go ahead and leave these to the default of the center and close out of our settings. The next obvious change as far as the interface is concerned is the appearance. The theme that we have here is pretty bright and vivid. Now, this can also be changed from several different other themes. If we right-click on the desktop and then choose Personalize down at the bottom, clicking, we open up a window here where we can see several other options to choose from, and we'll go ahead and step through these really quickly just so you can have an idea of what these others will look like. This last one I believe is my favorite. I like the darker colors, but for this tutorial we're going to go ahead and keep it with the default setting. And let's close out of our settings menu. And actually, before we move on to the next topic, if I come back to our personalized settings, just know that you can create your own custom theme by coming to themes down below. We'll click once to open that up. And then we can see use custom theme here. And also be aware that we can choose from tons of different themes on the Microsoft Store. So if we click on Browse Themes, that will open up the store, which has been redesigned, and we'll take a look at that near the end of the video. And once this loads, we can see that there's a huge variety of different themes that you can choose from. Most of these are for free, so you can just download whichever one catches your eye and experiment with these. And now let's move on to take a look at the new Start menu. So clicking once here, we can see that this is pretty different than what was in Windows 10. At the top, we have a search field. We don't have to click in there to type. If I wanted to search for an application, I can just then begin typing, and we open up a search window to see our results there. If we were to click in the search field here, then this is going to change to a search window, and we'll take a look at that in a second. We then have our pinned applications. These are the ones that are going to show up by default. But of course, we can always remove and add our own applications to this window here. So simply coming to an application and right-clicking, we can unpin from the start, run as an administrator, open that file location, and pin to taskbar. Now, what we see in this contextual menu is going to change a little bit depending on what we select. But the most important thing to know is that you can adjust this as you'd like to have the applications that you choose to have here. Now, when you have a lot of applications pinned, you can use these buttons here to scroll down and see the ones below. At the bottom, we have recommended apps. Then we have our user. If I click once on this, then I can change the account settings, lock, or sign out. We then have our power button in the bottom right-hand corner to sleep, shut down, or restart. And of course, we can access all of our apps by clicking on the All Apps button here and just scroll down to find the app that we are looking for. We could also click on the letter to bring up this view here where we can immediately jump to a particular letter if we know the app, of course, if we're looking for a particular application by name. And if we'd like to pin an application from this menu to the first screen, then we would just right-click and pin to start. So now when I click on the bat button, let's scroll down to the bottom, and we can see that Tunnel Bear has been added to our Start menu here. If you'd like to pin an application to the taskbar, then this is going to be accomplished the same as in Windows 10. So we could simply right-click and choose to pin to the taskbar here. Or if we have an application running, so this is my screen capture software, I could right click on this and pin to taskbar here as well. Now we also have a couple of different ways that we can customize the start menu by using the settings application. So up at the top right corner of our start menu, if I click on that, we open up our settings, and by default we are going to see system settings. But if we click on this button up above, we can choose personalization and then scroll down, and we can see we have start here. I'll click once, and then we can see the different settings that we can adjust for the start menu. Show recently added apps, we can turn that off or on if we'd like. Most used apps, recently opened apps and start, etc. Now let's move on to take a look at the default taskbar buttons that you're going to see once you upgrade or install Windows 11. So next to our start button, we have a search button, and we can just click here to open up the search window, or press the Windows plus S key to open that up, and our cursor will be immediately in the search field, so we can then look for an application or document or folder. By default, this is going to be set to search all of our PC and web, but we can choose to search strictly by app, documents, or the web. We also have more here. We have top apps and recent apps, as well as quick searches. So if I were to go ahead and perform a search here, then we can see the best match is an application. We can also search the web. We have folders and documents, photos, and videos. And if you'll notice to the right here, we have a few options for what to do with that application. We can open it, run as administrator, open that file location, and a few other items here, like pinning to the start, taskbar, or uninstalling. Next to the search, we have a task view. Now, when I hover over this, we can see that if you have set up multiple desktops, then you can choose between them. I have not, but we can easily set up a new desktop by clicking on the plus button here. And this is going to give you a completely different setup for your desktop, or a second one that you can have set up for maybe if you want to do multimedia work on that desktop and your other one, office production. So if I choose desktop 2, you may not notice a change here, but this is a different desktop. So if I were to right click and let's personalize and choose a different background image. So I will select this one here. So now when I hover on the task view button, we can see that desktop 2 with the new desktop wallpaper that I chose. We can come back to the original desktop by clicking there. So anytime that you'd like to set up multiple desktops, then you can do that pretty easily. To get rid of it, just hover and click on the X, and we're back to our original. Now by clicking on the task view, we're going to see any open applications. At this time, I only have my screen capture software open. If I were to open up an Explorer and come back to that task view, we can see the Explorer there. Now we can also use our touchscreen. So if we use 3 fingers to push up, then we can view that task view, 3 fingers again to pull down, and then we come back to our original desktop. And next we have a widgets panel. So by clicking here, we can access that. We can also use the Windows key plus W to show or hide that. And here we have a variety of different widgets that we can take a look at. We can add our own or remove these. So anything that we don't want to see, we can click on the ellipsis button here. More options. We can choose medium, large, customize that widget, or remove. These can also be rearranged by clicking on the header. That cursor changes to a hand, so then we can drag and arrange these any way that we'd like. Moving on in the taskbar, we then have a chat and video conferencing with Microsoft Teams. So by clicking on this, we can easily access our contacts and begin chatting or video chatting with any contacts that we have set up. I don't currently have this set up at the moment, so we're just getting a basic getting started screen. We then have our File Explorer window, and we can click that to open up the Explorer, or we can use the shortcut, the Windows key plus E, to open up Explorer windows. And we'll come back to this in a moment to take a more in-depth look at some of the changes that have been made there. Now, of course, any of these applications that we'd like to remove, we have the option to do so by right-clicking on the taskbar, coming to the taskbar settings, and then we can see at the very top here, We have search, the task view, widgets, and chat, which we've just taken a look at. So these are going to be all on by default, but I can just simply click on these sliders and you can notice that these are being removed from the taskbar there. So you do have some flexibility in what you'd like to see. You're not forced to have those there if you don't want to. Now, over in the right, we have our corner icons and the time and date. So some of the applications that we may have open, like in my screen capture software, we can see that that's open there. If I right click on that, we have different settings. So this is familiar to Windows 10. One change that we do have in 11 is that if we were to click on the Wi-Fi or the network, volume control, or battery, then we open up a quick settings panel. And we can also access this panel by using the Windows key and A. So show and hide that with those shortcut keys. Now, with this quick settings panel, we can do things like turn on and off our Bluetooth with just one click. Also our Wi-Fi. If we click on this arrow here, then we can see settings for our Wi-Fi and choose a different router. For our location, airplane mode, battery saver, focus assist. Now the focus assist is going to determine what notifications you're seeing. So by default, you're going to receive notifications for applications, alarms, etc. by default. But if we click once on this, then we're only going to receive notifications for priority applications. If we click again, then we're only going to hear or see notifications for alarms. Clicking once again, then we are going to be or receive notifications for everything. We then have accessibility. By clicking on this, we can activate our magnifier, color filters, narrator, etc. Let's click to come back. We have our screen brightness control, volume control, and then we also have this pencil button, so we can edit our settings here. So if we'd prefer not to see the accessibility, we can click once there, done, and then that's been removed. We can come to add and then bring that back. If I come back to add again, then we can continue to add any other settings or features that we'd like as well. Now finally, we have the gear icon, which is going to take us to our settings application. Now in Windows 10, when we click on the time and date, then we would be able to adjust the time zone, etc. within a window, a pop-up window. But now when we click on the time and date, we have our notifications. We can clear all there, and we have a flyout for our calendar. But if we'd like to adjust our time and date, then we can right click here and then adjust the date and time, and then also adjust our notification settings. So coming to adjust date and time, we're taken to the settings menu where we can make familiar adjustments there. Right clicking notification settings, and we've already covered this a bit here. So we can turn the notifications on and off here, and then with the focus assistant, which we saw in the quick settings panel, choosing off will receive all notifications and priority only. These are the settings that we've already talked about. So let's close this out. And now let's move on to take a look at some of the changes to the Explorer. So I've got a folder here that I created for the tutorial. I'll just double click to open up our Explorer window. And if you notice that we have rounded edges here, so all of our applications are going to have these rounded corners. And starting from the very top left corner, we have a new button. So when we click on that, we can create a new folder. We can also use Control, Shift, and N for shortcut keys to create a new folder. If I click on that, then we can see we have a recycle or delete button here. Of course, we could use the key on our keyboard, but just notice that we have these quick action buttons. So whenever we select a file or folder, so if I select this photo, then we can see we have cut, copy, paste. We can rename, share, and delete. Which of these buttons is going to change slightly depending on what you have selected. So if I select a folder, then not all of these are going to be active here. We then have sort for the contents of our folder. We can sort by name, date modified, type, and more. These are all familiar from Windows 10, ascending, descending, group by. So these are all pretty similar to Windows 10. We then have view, so we can view large, extra large, large, change the size of our icons, a list view. We can choose details, tiles, content. Compact view is going to By default, these are going to be spaced out a little bit, so this is going to help you if you're using a touchscreen to make selections. But if we'd like a more compact view, then we can select that there. We then have show at the bottom and some features here which a lot of you may want to access, such as turning on your file name extensions. So we can see this rich text format document.rtf. That's showing the file extension. So if I click here, then we can see that that goes away. So just know that you can quickly access that setting by coming to the show at the bottom, turning on the file name extensions. Also, if you have hidden files, then you can show or hide those by clicking here. Our item checkboxes, we can turn those off if we'd like. So when I click to select or hover, we don't have those checkboxes. If you're not familiar with that feature, then let's go ahead and turn that on. So now when I have that turned on, we can see we have the checkbox. So if you'd like to select multiple files to cut or copy, that's what this feature is for. Now finally at the top, we have this ellipsis button where we can undo pin to quick access. So if we'd like to add this example folder to our quick access area, then I can come here and pin to quick access, and we now have that there. If I right click here, then we can unpin it. And what else do we have here? We've got select all, select none, invert. We can view the properties and options. This is going to take us to our folder options, which is familiar from Windows 10. So just know that you can access these settings from there. We can then move back and forward, and moving up to our desktop. Back, we come back to our tutorial folder. This is our file path. Of course, these are all the same as Windows 10. We've got our search field and our quick access area. We have this PC. We can, of course, expand this out. And we have network. At the very bottom, we can choose between a list view or thumbnails. And when we choose the thumbnails, it's going to create a large view. So I want to go back to the medium. We could do that in the view menu. Now let's take a look at snap layouts, and this is going to allow you to lay out several different applications that you have open in various ways. So I'll hold the Windows key and E to open up another Explorer. Let's open up the Start menu, and I'm going to also open up a browser here. So now when I hover on the Restore button, or if we were to come to one of the Explorer windows and hover on the Maximize button, you see we have this pop-up window where we can choose a snap group. So let's choose this one here, and whatever we highlight is going to place the window in that area. So our Explorer window is going to be placed in the center, and now we're able to choose where we want to place these other applications that are open. So here is the web browser. If I click there, that's now to the left. The other Explorer window is now going to be placed to the right. And of course, we can choose one of these other options here. So if I hover on the Maximize, then I can place this one here. Let's put the browser there and choose that and my screen capture software. And if I hold Windows and D to show the desktop, just notice that if I hover on the Explorer here, then I can choose to open up that one by itself, or I can choose our snap group and open that up. And let's go ahead and close out some of these windows here. Now we've seen the Settings app, which has been redesigned throughout this video several times, and I think it's really nice what they've done with this. Things were a little bit disjointed in Windows 10. So we can access the Settings app by using the Start menu, and we can see we have Settings here. Also, we could right-click on the Start button, and then we have Settings down at the bottom. So we can then access our settings. By default, this is going to be on System. But if we come up to the very top and click on this button here, we can choose whatever area we'd like to focus on. So if we'd like to take a look at our Bluetooth settings and devices, we can select there. And then now, if we scroll down, we can make adjustments to our cameras, mouse. If I click here, you can see these are really nice, cleanly laid out menus, I think. We can then move back by clicking there, using the back arrow to come back. Let's choose another area, apps, so we can view our installed apps by coming here. By clicking on the right, over to the right, we can uninstall. Some of these are going to have different options based on what you are selecting. Advanced options, move, uninstall. So overall, I think Windows or Microsoft did a nice job on redesigning the settings menu and making it a lot more clean and fluid. Now, the final thing that we'll take a look at is the Windows Store, which has been redesigned. We can access that by clicking on the Start menu, and then up at the very top, we have the store there. So let's click once and open that up, and we're taken to a home screen here. At the very top, we have a search field where we can search for different apps, games, movies. And over to the left, we can also choose to show different apps. Or below that, we have gaming. And below that, we have movies and TV. At the very bottom, we have library, where we can view some of the installed applications that we have, and then we have a help button. So now, Windows 11 is going to be including a feature where we can install Android applications. The release of that feature has been delayed by a few months, so there's not a set date for that, but just know that in the future, we will be able to install Android applications and run them within Windows 11. Okay, so that's been a look at Windows 11. I'll be following this up with more detailed tutorials on the various features and changes that have been made. So if you're interested in learning more, just know that those will be on the way. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial.